Right guys, it's 2:30 in the afternoon. I've just turned up to a local commercial fishery by me, a place called Plantation. And as you can see, I'm into my first fish. I'm here today in my pleasure setup. It took me 20 minutes to literally walk to my peg and set up, everything's ready. All I'm fishing is the method feeder. This is my first cast. I chucked out to the island, got the feeder reasonably close, clipped up there, and then I've just wound back in and just loaded the feeder with some ground bait. Little waft up, and we're in straight away. Tip's just gone straight around after about a minute and a half of it being in the water. We've got ourselves a carp. So the reason I'm out here today is I've been messing about with some of the Tom Thick ground baits. I'm trying to work out what's good to put on the method feeder, and after a bit of messing about in my shed, I've come up with this little mixture that I've got on now. I just wanted to see how it performed, and as the feeder's gone round first chucking, I can only assume that's a good sign. Very lively fish. Just flick the feeder out. Just going to put the camera on it so you can see there. There you are. He's quite skinny little common. Skinny little mirror, fully scaled actually. Not going to lift him up and pester him any more than we need to, just put him back. So that's a great start. Alright guys, it's taken a while really to get a second bite. I've had a phone call in between. My casting's been atrocious, nothing short of atrocious, but I've just started to do it at the same spot. I've just hooked another one which feels like it's not quite as crazy as the last fish. Could be a big skimmer, could be a small carp, could be anything. I've shortened the hook nets back down because the bigger hook nets just didn't seem to be working, but I'm not sure if that was more my casting or what. Maybe it's just a bigger fish, this one, and he's just woke up now. Yeah, I think he's a bigger fish, this one. I'm still not getting super tight to the island. So I've got a little 9-foot rod on it. It's quite soft, bends really easy with a fish on, but I like that with me little. So I like to use little hooks than most people do on the method. With having a little hook length, it's not quite as strong as a longer hook length. So we're down to like a 2 inch. This is definitely a bigger fish. He's not happy at all now. He's about being hooked. The way he came in, I thought it was a bigger fish because he just didn't go off like the first one. That sort of 4 or 5 pounder, he went off like a lunatic. And that's what they do. And then your rod in this just slowly plodded around. Nice little common, I think. Might just be because it's a common, it's just a bit more battle in them. It's battle hard, don't they, commons? I'm not in a rush, I'm not in a match, so I'm enjoying myself. I've got him in by now because in a match I've got to pull a bit harder. It's like a ghosty sort of common. He's done. He's done. Got enough line out now. Put the back line on so we can get a bit more line out. Oh yeah, he's more like, he's just a bit of a more healthier looking fish, this one. Again, I'll just give you a little lock on the camera. There he is, but I'm not going to touch him, no point. Looks like he's got the upper body of a 8 or 9, you know, he's got the head and shoulders of an 8 or 9 pound fish, and he's got the tail and tail and back end of a sort of 4 pound fish. He's probably somewhere in the 5 to 6 pound bracket. Strange looking fish, but he fought very hard for a fish with such a small tail actually. So, we're back on it again. It's quite difficult for me to show you what we're doing. I might set it up in the ground bait, in a bait bowl in a minute, so you can see the next one. So far, it's pretty conclusive that the new ground bait's doing the business. Although my moulding technique isn't. I'm really squeezing it on really hard. I don't think you can over squeeze it with this ground bait. It's breaking down so well. Let's see if I can show you roughly what I mean about how tight we are. We're not that tight, look. Still a couple of feet away from the bank, I'd have thought. That's it, the line's sunk and we're in. That's all you got to do. You just got to cast out, get it on the clip. I can see a tail come up right where the feeder's going, so the fish are coming straight to this feeder, so I'm not leaving it in for more than a minute or two. I know how quickly this ground bait breaks down. I know how easy it is to disturb that pile. So if these fish ain't hooking themselves within sort of a minute and a half, 2 minutes, I'm just wandering and chucking back out again. So I can see them come into it every single time. If I get it in that shallower tight, that water reasonably shallow, I see a tail come up where the feeder's gone in. There we go, that's a fish on. Might be a skimmer, I think. That could be another carp that's just, it might be a carp that's swum towards me a little bit there. Well, that was good, didn't even know. I was about to turn it off and say I'll catch another one in a minute, and we've seen it there. So it's probably the tail of that fish that I saw is probably the one. It's just hooked himself there. You could almost see the head shake on that one. Well, the tip went bang bang, which is, classic head shake of a carp that's been pricked. Probably another decent carp this, just judging by the way it's fighting. It could even be just a really big bream. And after all, that's going to be neither, is it? It's going to be a little 2 pounder. It's just not putting up a fight. Straight in the back. I mean, compare that to the last fish, which took us a couple of minutes to land. This fish, he's going to do his fighting in the net, and he's pretty much the same size. In fact, he's a longer fish, but he's leaner. He's spat the hook out and hooked himself in the belly. Now he's up the net, so that's handy. So there we are, another one, carbon copy of the last one really. Nice fish really. Like enamely. Almost ghosty like. Right, I've just had another one, so I thought I'd show you what I'm doing. So I've put some ground bait in a little bait tub so you can see and put it on my lap. Filling it flush, putting the waft that horizontal down the centre of the, so that's the mould. So it's right in the centre of the mould. A little bit there just to stop it from being right at the bottom of the mould on that ridge. And then by putting that in the centre, I know that I'm in the gap in the middle. I squeeze it there as hard as I can, and I actually press the red button and squeeze it hard as well. I want it hard as I can. It almost looks like a smooth ball, and you think, well, is it ever going to break down? Well, I know from tank testing that it breaks down, and in that last cast I had a fish within 20 seconds of it getting to the bottom, so it definitely broken down. Seems like I've got a few fish waiting there now. I can get the feeder in roughly the right spot. It seems to go around reasonably quickly. Missed a couple of fish on the just before I had that one. I had a couple of fish that were indications. It seemed like there were fish on, but there were nothing there when I picked the rod up. I found my hair had tangled up a little bit, so I'm also experimenting with a braid hair. So I've not got a braid hook length. I'm not sure what the rules on this fishery are on braid hook lengths, but most of the fisheries I fish, you can't use braid hook lengths anyway, so there's no point in experimenting with them. But I'm pretty sure you're allowed to use a bit of braid for the hair. Now, when you're using little wafters and little wafters and things like that, use a bayonet normally because it gives the hook bait a bit of freedom and helps you hook a few more fish. But if you're using braid for an hook as well instead, then you can use a band because the braid gives the this is a skimmer. The braid gives the hook bait the freedom to move around where it wants, and so you don't have to worry about having that eye that you get with a bayonet. You get an eye, and obviously the eye of the bayonet, and because you tie it into a loop, it all moves around. I'm explaining it; it's a bit difficult for me to explain, but I think that might be a roach. Just look at that. Lovely roach. Cracker. So what I've got here, I'll see if I can show you what I mean. A little bit, let me just dry it off a bit, it's a bit manky and you can't see it very well with the slime and that's on it. So the hook length is made from feeder braid. It was red, it's lost a bit of colour because a lot of the colour is dye, and it gives it lots of freedom to wiggle around. And I put a little bit of a band rubber on because I like to do that. Hopefully that's showing up. What that does is it lines the bait up with the point more, so that you're more like, as the hook swivels, you're more likely to hook it without boring you with the leg mechanics, but that's how it works. And once we've got that set right, maybe I'll try and do a close-up of it separately and show you like an inset piece in the video, hopefully. I also, you noticed I have the line coming out the side of the feeder. A lot of people have the line coming out the bottom of the feeder and back into the feeder, but I'll line my rig that way, my hook up that way, if you're seeing that. So my hook's lined that way, hook bait there, hook there, and then the line's coming out the side, and then I twist the feeder so that it curves back in from the side. So there it comes out of there and into the side. If it comes out of there, turns back on itself and goes back in, you've got like quite a tight bend in your mono. And if you've got a thick mono one, like an 019 or something, and that wants to spring straight, and it can try to drag your hook bait out of the pile. That makes sense, because it's trying to spring back straight, whereas when it's curved at 90 degrees, it's got a whole lot less spring, so it's not really trying to spring out so much. So to my mind, it means the hook bait's more likely to stay on the pile for longer. So there we are, we've cast out again, we've hit the clip, we've dropped it into the spot, and we've just got the point. The rod tips under the water and the line is sinking. It's dead straight, I can see it on the surface, and the last little bit's just sunk. Lots of videos on the internet showing that, so I don't need to go through it too much detail. And then just tighten it up a little tiny bit. I don't like it mega tight. It's on, I think, already. Another skimmer, I think. Yeah, another skimmer. So I don't like to have it too. Oh, yeah, skimmer. I don't like to have it too tight because I'll show you why in a second. I'm not tightening up to the feed. I'm tightening up to some tubing. Let me show you the tubing when we get the skimmer out. So the ground bait. Oh, there we are. It's come off. The ground bait's always gonna attract those types of fish, which is fine, because I weren't, if I was just wanted carp I'd put more pellet in, but today I'm experimenting. So let's go back through the whole rig again. So from the start, I've got my band on a bit of braid. It's just the hook length braid, but that's mono, look. There's a bit of rubber on there, which is just float rubber, and I like to do that because it just helps with the self-hooking properties. But then here I've got some tubing. Now it's safe. Feeder slides up and down and slide off if the fish gets broken or anything. But the tubing's heavy. It's tungsten impregnated carp tubing. What it does is it pins down that first 2 foot above the feeder. And because it's heavy, you can tighten up to it, and what you end up doing is just lifting the first couple of inches off the bottom, and the rest of it lies flat, as long as you don't try and tighten up too much. Okay, so then back to what we were saying before, we lie that, let me take this down so you can see it, we lie that in so that the hook bait is in the middle and the hook comes to the side. This is not for hooking purposes. This is so that the line isn't like looped back on itself. I've got a very short hook length on today. A lot of places you won't be allowed to have such a short hook length as that. But there we are, it's out there and in. Okay, it does pinch a little bit here, something to think about. It does get punched a little bit, but even if you go back in there, it still gets pinched a bit on the method. There's not much you can do about it. When you're squeezing that method hard, you're pinching your hook length a little bit. Let's see if we can cast to roughly the same spot again, or exactly the same spot again would be better. Not too far away that, a little bit left. And then, again, as I've hit the clip, everything's gone straight. I've laid the rod down straight in front of me. The line's all straight in a straight line and it's just sinking on the surface, and there, ping, it's just sunk now. Put the rod in the rest and just slowly tighten up. So there's no slack in the line. I think I missed it. There's a lot of skimmers there now. I think I missed him. So those skimmers are, what we've got on here, we've got some debris. No. So those skimmers are grabbing it and dinking it off. So you can see how fast this groundbait is breaking down, even though I'm squeezing it to high heaven. Now, you know, if I was after carp solely, I'd be switching to pellets at the minute, because obviously groundbait is definitely something that does attract silverfish more. But I'm here today just getting some confidence in this groundbait, and I might mess about in a minute and mix some pellets in with it, but just for a minute, just getting myself sorted. So in again we go. Everything's gone down in a straight line. I don't know if you can see that on the surface. The line is sinking. There's a little V coming back towards me, a little V going away from me, and then they eventually meet in the middle. I can feel fish hitting there. Something's hit the line already. I can feel fish hitting that feeder. I don't know if it's on or not, but getting a lot of them little skimmers. I should have checked that that hair was right, because it's got tangled up. I'll be missing fish. I'm not going to leave this in too long, because I already know that my rig is blown. I already know that something's had my hookbait in its mouth and got away with it, because I was holding the rod line, felt it go bing bing. But if there's a lot of skimmers there, I'll probably hook one anyway. Something's on there already. There we are. It's another skimmer by the feel of it. Little skimmer. It's come off. It's fell off. Let's just check that up length again. So if you had a 4-inch hook length on, you probably wouldn't see these indications, but that wouldn't mean that the skimmer hasn't been in, picked up the bait and gone, oh, it's got a hook in it. Spat it back out. Because these skimmers are obviously flying in and just hammering into the feeder as soon as it gets down to the bottom. Just eating all those beautiful particles that are in it. Try again, see if we can get the same spot again. A little bit more to the right this time. Oh, it's nearly gone into the bushes, that one. Down there. So if I go a little bit more to my right, the bank gets a bit closer to me, because the bank just sort of gets further away to me the further left I go. Something's touched it again, I can feel it. Something touching the feeder again already. Just on it all the time. Getting banged and battered around all the time at the minute. And I can be pretty confident that they're not liners. They're certainly not liners off fish that are close to the feeder, because I've got that. That heavy tubing on. There could be liners off fish that are between me and the fish, a bit closer, you know, shallow fish. See that's it's just gone slack. Something's swimming back towards me with it in its mouth now. So there's a skimmer, like it's just literally, it might even be a carp. think it's a better skimmer, I think. It's just swam back towards me. The feeder's not even, I've not really got it to the bottom, he's just hooked himself. What's this? This doesn't feel like a carp, but it feels like a good skimmer. That's nice. Take that. Oh, I've decided to wake up now it's too late. Here he is. I'll put him back in with the net because it's a bit, the water's dropped a little bit here. Let's get this out of the way for a second. I can put him in the net. Water level, really a bit slimed up. So what I'll probably do now is start adding some pellet to it. So I've got another load of ground bait here, so if I don't want the pellet I can go back to that. I've got half the ground bait in there. But I ain't got no wet pellet, I'm going to try adding dry pellet. So I'm going to add it a bit at a time until I'm happy. So I don't want the ground bait to fall off the feeder. Prematurely. You know, normally you'd have soaked pellets which would help you stick it together, but I ain't bought any soaked pellets with me and I don't want to mess about doing that now. I'm pleasure fishing, I'm just here to have some fun. So I was going to say, while that's sitting there, I don't know if it's actually going to sit there for any length of time or not. Got some 2 meals with me. I'm going to put a handful of them into that mix. Oh, I've got a fish on. It's just a skimmer, it's driven by the way it's bounced around, or it's come off. Put a fair bit in actually, mix it around and just see. Could have been a line of that, but it was very aggressive. So I can pull the rod in for a second. Not moved the feeder much, so maybe it was a really big liner, or maybe a skimmer's hooked itself, pricked itself. Shook its head for a few seconds and got off. Something else has picked it up again now. So there we are. There's a lot more pellet in there now. I'm going to wind this in because it's moving back and forward like a yo-yo. Something's on. Probably a skimmer. Or a feel of it. Small skimmer or a roach or something. It might fall off where it gets in. No, it's on. So I'm going to now try and concentrate on my casting a bit more and try and get these pellets going into a spot and see if I can interest a carp or two to have a look. Maybe push these skimmers out a bit. Maybe there's not enough bait there for a carp today, I don't know. Right guys, I've had another 10 or 12 skimmers and whatnot. Now it feels like I've hooked another carp here. Don't think the pellets are the reason I've hooked it. Just think it's just a case of getting through the numbers, hoping that sometimes you land it in front of a carp. A little small one, a 3 pound, a 4 pound or something like that. But certainly got some confidence in this ground bait now. It does break down ridiculously quickly. The speed at which it breaks down is unbelievable. I definitely wouldn't want to use it in deep water. I definitely want to put in something sticky in it, I think, if it was in deeper water. For this sort of fishing up against islands, it's absolutely cook on. Just a little mirror. Similar stamps on the 5 pound bracket. Oh, he's not happy, this one. Not a happy boy at all. He's taken me bandom off, I'll swap it. There there we are. So I did land a little bit to the right, but crucially when it went right, it went a lot tighter to the island. Wouldn't surprise me if I've got to get a lot tighter in order to catch them. But at the moment, I'm not really, like I say, I'm not worried. Sorry, talking with the waft in my mouth. I'm not worried about what I'm catching. Just happy catching. As long as it's going around regularly, so I can keep me casting going. And I'm a happy boy. The carp bites are definitely more positive than the skimmer bites. You'll miss them just on, as you would expect with carp, to be fair. A little bit tighter again. I've just moved a little bit to the right just so I can get a bit tighter without moving the clip off. Just got to cast a bit more accurately, because if I go too far right, I'll catch the edge of the willow tree that's overhanging. I don't really want to do that if I can help it. Let's sank there, all sank down. So I've had 5 or 6 carp. Been here about an hour and a half, really, about 1:30 I said, but it starts now 4 o'clock, so I don't know, I've had 5 or 6 carp, must have had 10 or 12, maybe 15 skimmers and a roach. So it's been a nice little afternoon session. I like coming out and pleasure fishing with my dad's set up. It's really simple to chuck it at. It's really simple to just chuck it all together. Got the rod in a ready rod bag, so it's just literally a case of getting it out of the bag and putting it together. Chair folds out, everything comes out of the bag. I can walk to my peg anywhere on the lake just carrying the tackle. I ain't got to have a trolley or anything like that. Plonk it down, chuck it out. I've even got a waggler rod with me if I wanted. Oh, that's on, that's a carp, I think. Here we are, a little bit tighter, definitely a bit better. What was I saying? Yeah, it's just nice, you know. Sometimes I don't like coming pleasure fishing as a match angler because there's a lot of rigmarole, and the fishing's, you know you're going to come and catch them on these commercial fisheries. I don't mind going pleasure fishing on somewhere that's a bit harder, like a river or something, which we've done on the River Kenner. We'll do some more on there. But when it's so easy, it's just pleasurable. It is genuinely just pleasurable. And I am working on this casting accuracy at the moment, and I'm finding if I can keep my timing good, sort of, you know, smooth, I can cast that a little bit more accurately. I'm not far away from where I need to be, to be casting quite good. But it's just a little bit of an improvement required. I keep looking over my shoulder, I keep thinking somebody's behind me, but it's a rat. There's a rat munching in the bushes behind me. He keeps popping his head out. All a similar stamp in here, aren't they? I don't do a lot of carp fishing here, or fishing that involves me catching a lot of carp. Those that watch my channel regularly will know that I fish winter matches here for the silvers. But I do very little matches on here. There's not a lot of matches on here that are sort of catch everything. Just club matches, I think. So your club's got to come and book. And generally speaking, they don't have this lake open for match fishing. You've got another little lake around the back which historically hasn't been brilliant, but Fishery has just gone through a big change. They've just done a lot of work out on that back one there, and so potentially it could be massively improved. I'm not sure what the fishing stock density is like, the stocking density is like. This lake's absolutely rammed with fish, which is why it's very popular with pleasure anglers, and that's why they don't let matches, they don't really run open matches on here, because it's literally full every week with pleasure anglers. So, you know, they've got to follow the money, haven't they? So that's what they do. Plus it's a whole lot easier catering for pleasure anglers who just turn up and look after themselves, rather than match anglers who need scales and somebody to come out weigh in and blah 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 blah. But in the winter when it's quiet, do have a few silver only matches on you, and they're really, really good. Right, let me concentrate, see if I can get this bang on the spot again. The line was pretty good, but for some reason the timing was off, and I've chucked the feeder very low and it's gone in like a bag of spanners. And I'll be surprised if the ball is in one piece now, so there'll probably just be a wafter on the deck and some ground bait, but get a minute or two, because I bet it still goes around. There's that many fish there at the moment. It's already gone round, I can't tighten up. There's already something on there. I couldn't tighten up then, something's already done something that it just wouldn't get tight. Weird. But these small skimmers, if they're swimming back towards you and they're moving their feet, by the time you tighten up to them, they've spat the hook out. And so I'm pretty sure that was a fish. There's a few of them getting away with it today. Gives me an opportunity to test my casting again. Bang on, absolutely. Line wise, absolutely on the line I was aiming for. I couldn't have placed it better on my hand. I'm really happy about that. That's where I want to get. I want to get to a point where that's the norm for me. Feels like there's a few fish tapping at that feeder already. Line's up and down, can't tighten it again. It's gone dead slack again now. Probably a skimmer just picked it up and swam off with it, dropped it. Crazy amount of fish that are out there at the minute, absolutely crazy. Something's hanging on there. Yeah, I can feel it. Whether it stays on or not, doesn't really matter. Only a small fish. It's a skimmer for sure. If I can maintain this accuracy for the next 4 or 5 chucks, I might just take a little bit off the clip and go a little bit tighter, because if I can maintain the accuracy, then I can control my distance from the island a bit better. Whereas if I can't maintain my accuracy, I can't take any off the clip, because I'll end up in the island if it goes right. And this is why being accurate is really important. You know, some days when you're in a match, there's a spot where you've got to get these fish. pretty close. A little bit left that went. And a few more carp now, guys. Just took a little bit off the clip and got a little bit tighter. Time of the day's moved on a little bit as well. Casting's improving all the time, getting tighter and tighter area, so that's also helping. I've just had the best carp of the day that I've had today, about 6 or 7 pounder, but he's I didn't put the camera on for him. Here comes another one. Another good thing about that tubing that I've put on is it does protect the fish, so you know when the fish is doing this and I'm pulling sideways, if the line is running down the side of the fish, it don't damage the fish or hurt the fish in any way. Which is nice because we do put all these fish back, so we want them to go back as unharmed as possible. Another 5 pounder, 4 pounder perhaps. Literally as soon as it went in, that was just sinking that line down, and I could feel the rod tap tap tap, and then I just felt the rod pulling my hand. It's been in what, 10 seconds again. That seems to be the case today with this ground bait mix. There you go, it's definitely coming straight to it. Getting soaked. One thing I always seem to forget to do when I come out with a pleasure setup is put something waterproof on my legs, or put some decent full length trousers on, and I always get soaked. Just catapulting the banding across the lake. I think my rats just ran across behind me and moved out the corner of my eye. So, still doing the same. I've had to top up this tub now. I've used all what was in there. I've put a few more pellets in, a few more handfuls of ground bait. Doesn't seem to matter what I do. Fish are loving it today. Oops. First time that's happened today. Yeah. Sometimes that big wafter though, even though it's not that big a wafter, it's only a 6mm, it is actually blocking off half the width of your feeder. So you do lose a bit of grip in that area. I wonder if that's a factor. Going in like a flipping bomb. Pretty sure it won't make any difference today. Probably get a skim on it straight away. Yeah, something's on there already. It's a skimmer by the feel of it. There we are, and that's how fast the bites are today. I mean, that's a slow bite today. It's ridiculous. It's got quicker and quicker once the casting accuracy has improved. And it's just got quicker and quicker and quicker. This place is paved with skin bobs. There's plenty of them coming through for the future generations, so I can see the silverfishing in this lake continuing to be awesome for a few years to come, which cheers me up no end, because I do love me silvers in the winter. Even in the summer, some days when I get bored. Helicopter coming over, sorry about that. Let's just tidy that up a little bit of slime on it. So I'm trying to improve my casting. I'll try and give you a little talk through what I'm doing, see whether or not I can explain it as I'm going. Check the cameras on behind me, yeah. So, I've got my feeder loaded how I want, which is great. And then I'll get me rod up when I get the drop I want, which is about half a rod length today. My little 9-foot rod, and then I get my line on the clip, right, so I'm ready. I'm pointing my knees, my hips, my back, and my shoulders all square to my target. And I put my rod quite a bit in front of me, and then he's pointing at my target ever so slightly in front of me like that. Okay, and then what I'm doing is I'm lowering him, and as I lower him, as you lower the rod, it swings away from you, and that means that then that feeder is swinging on that line as well. So that when I come back on that line, everything is on that line, and the hope is that it all stays on that line. Just trying to create like an imaginary line, and line everything up with it. So that's what I'm trying to do. 1, 2, 3. Absolutely nailed it that time. It's gone into the reeds. I have added a little bit on the line clip, and that's cost me. It's the best cast I've done all day, and as a result it's just gone a little bit too far. So what we'll do, well, we've got that there, because obviously when it's perfect, it's perfect. I'll just hold the line here and I'll just wind that down so I know how much I'm putting it on. We only want to be a foot or so shorter than that. And that's fine. So, disappointed that I've gone in there, but I'm not disappointed at all with that cast, because it was absolutely where I wanted it to be, and everything was so good that it actually just stretched it all out perfectly straight, and it just went a bit too far into that reeds. Now, if that happens to you and you go into the reeds or you go into a tree, remember you've got a method feeder on. So your hook's not exposed. So as long as you haven't wrapped over the branch or whatever it is that you're casting to, if you gently pull, you can normally pull it 3. Only if you just keep increasing the pressure slowly, eventually it'll pull 3. Sometimes you just get unlucky, but with a method feeder you can get it out 4 out of 5 times. Let's try again. Everything's pointing at the target, everything there. I'm swinging the feeder at the target, everything's ready to go. Just 1, 2, 3. Right, there's a little tiny bit left, that is. Probably 2 or 3 feet to the left. So I'm going to say 2.5 foot left of where I wanted it to go. Which today I get away with, but it's not what I want. That's the level of accuracy I'm trying to achieve at the moment. And the only way you're going to get that is practice, practice, practice. So, like I said, just remember, point everything at the toe. I'm slack already. Something on that, I think. Yeah, it's gone slack again. There's a little skimmer hanging on there again. So everything's got to be pointed at the target. Your knees, put your hips square, your shoulders square. So it's best to get you whatever you're sitting on square to what your target is as well, so that you can draw an imaginary line down the centre of your body, and then you're looking straight at your target, and then you want to try and keep everything on that line. Nice little skin bob. I must be getting on forever having had 15 or 20 of them today now. If I had maggots, well, I've got some maggots actually. I could probably put maggots on and Catch loads of them. Right, so here's another little thing. With my sleeve, look, it slides up and down from time to time, but what I do, push him through there because he does fit nicely, but when I tie my stop bead on, actually you probably can't see that, give me a second, when I tie the stop on at the end, or the quick change bead or whatever you use, I use a loop and it gives me a knot there, and then I can pull the line, pull the tubing over that knot, and it just grips it, stops it keep sliding when you're casting, because it's a pain if it does that. It's 1, 2, 3. It's not too bad at all, that. Not three bad, that cast. So the line sunk. Just turning the reel just to get a little tiny bit of tension in the line so I can tell. I don't really use the tip as indication when I'm effing fishing. I just like tightish line going into the water, so the tip's hardly curved at all, if at all. But I can watch that line, especially on a calm day like today, and I can see if the line shoots up in the water or if the line drops back in the water, and I know the feeder must have moved. And sometimes you'll see the line going up and down, or the tip will move up and down, and you know there's a fish sort of like that. I don't know if you can picking that up on the camera there, or you can see it at all from where you are. There we are, it's bouncing around like a good one. That's probably a fish, probably a skimmer again. Still bouncing around. Now it's gone slack, now it's gone tight, now it's gone slack again. There's almost definitely a fish on now. There's a winding in now. It's just not getting tight again. So there's a fish going back with the feeder, and it's probably hooked itself and got off. Because these skimmers are being finicky and fiddly. So what I'm going to do, just because it's interesting, is I'm going to bite this band. I'm going to cut this band off. I'm going to put some maggots on for. I'm going to cut the hook length off, but keep the hook. Keep the hook on. And we'll put double maggot on for a bit. I've got some maggots that are. We'll just see whether that helps or hinders the catch rate. I just grabbed half a pint of maggots just for the hook as I was coming past the tackle shop. Sadly, I've only got one bait tub with me, so I'm going to have to try and stop them from wriggling everywhere, but I'm not too worried. So I'm going to put those gimmers a little rub between my fingers because I don't want them to wiggle around too much. I'll break up my ball before it gets out there, and it could wriggle over me up point. So that just stuns them. Makes it very hard for them to move. And just the same again, but this time just with the maggots instead of so everything's still done the same, still loaded the same, still squeezed just as hard because you won't break a maggot. Let's just see now, you ain't got the hook point showing, but I do feel like the skimmers are probably hang on to the maggots a bit more. Oh, that's just dropped in. It's just caught the reeds as it was got at the end of the clip, and then it's just dropped in. So like the reeds have cushioned the fall of it going in, so it's kind of a no splash. Which is probably a good thing. Some days it's not, but today the fish are there already, so I'm not bringing fish to the feeder with a splash, I don't think. think that's as tight to the reeds as it can get out without, you know, being in the reeds, without it being a bad cast into the reeds. But double dead red on, and I feel like that was a fish already, but he spat it back out again. That was another skimmer, that was. And again, oh, that's a carpy skimmer. He was just, oh, now it's pulled out like something weird happened there. Felt like a good fish. Just pulled out of him. There we are. So this is how I used to fish the method when I first learned how to fish the method as a young man. And many people my age and older will know this, but many people younger will probably won't. The method wasn't originally fished with pellets, it was originally fished with groundbait like this. In fact, putting pellets in it like I am now wouldn't have been something that you would have done. So back when we first started doing this, we were looking for the smoothest, finest ground baits that had lots of fish meal in that we could get, because we felt that was giving us the edge. Because the method had evolved from something that was a big lump of really hard, pasty type material. A big lump of blob on a big heavy rod, cast a long way, and it used to be like a hard ball that fish had to hit it all the time, you know, but they'd be mouthing at it all the time. And then eventually one would get the upbait, and then over time it evolved. It evolved into the flat-sided feeder that Andy Finley developed mostly. And it evolved into a more refined method whereby, oh, there's a fish on there already. It evolved into a more refined method with a ground bait that broke down quickly and maggots on the hook, and wow, I mean, this seems to have made it worse than maggot on the hook. And if it's encouraging smaller fish to get interested, some days this is the way to do it. But I'm pretty sure they're not liners. Because like I say, I've got this line laying, with this I've got the line on the deck. It's really quite heavy. It's surprising how heavy that is. When you hold it in your hand, you're like, well, that is going to really lie on the bottom, and it really does lie on the bottom quite well. It's kind of on the surface where the feeder's just gone in. A lot of carp don't want to be on the bottom today. I've noticed that, and that's on. Yeah, I just literally pulled the rod out of my hand. That is not a skimmer. I can see carp all over the surface when I got here, and you know, today would have been a great day for the pellet wag. Could come up tomorrow and do a bit of pellet wag fishing. I've got to be careful about dog care tomorrow. Couldn't bring the dogs with me, but they're not very friendly. Well, one of them isn't. Don't like bringing them out on the sunny days. So there we have it, the maggot. Oh, that is flying, that fish. And sometimes these fish have been caught so much on the method these days, and everyone's using these wafters, that they almost feel that something hard, and just, I feel like sometimes they feel something hard and just spit it out. Because if it's hard, it must be, you know, it's the only hard thing in there. Sometimes they get away with it. And the maggot almost doesn't probably provide any sensation for the fish in its mouth. It's so soft. His hook's come out. He's a little bit smaller. That was in his fin, but he wasn't foul hooked coming in. He came in too easy. Came in too easy for a foul hooked fish. So what that message is from? Probably the wife saying, "When are you coming home?" Ow! 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 That hook is sharp enough. Trust me. So, in amongst match anglers, there's a lot of people that say you can't practice. You can't practice unless you're in a match because you can't replicate a match environment. You know, it's rare that when you go to anywhere fishing that every peg's taken up and that lots of people clamping about on the bank and blah blah blah. And to some extent they're right, these people. But also to some extent they're wrong because it depends on what you're practicing. Like today, I'm practicing. I'm doing two things. I'm experimenting with a new bait, or a new bait to me. You know, there's going to be nobody else fishing with this groundbait mix anywhere in the country. I would have thought. I'd be very surprised. Maybe you know, one or two people have had a go and tried other things, but probably not likely. And two, I'm about my casting accuracy. So that's, you know, one of the things I'm here doing at the moment, working on this casting accuracy. So I'm having to think about my casting at the moment. But the more I do it, the more this will become second nature for me. The more the cast that I'm doing at the moment will become my normal cast. I've got to break a habit of 10 or 12 years that I've been casting like I was before, and that's hard to do. And when you get to my age, it's even harder. That was a rubbish cast, by the way. Went a little bit right, caught the tree, and it has plopped in nicely and gently, which is good, but it's not tight enough, and it's to the right of where I have been casting. But a lot of that was because I was chatting and I weren't concentrating. I'm just going to leave it in anyway because I've got to make another batch of groundbait up. So what the point I was making is you can practice. You can't practice whether or not you can't come along here and try and work out whether a technique's going to catch well in a match. But you can practice the technical aspects of that technique if you need to. Whether it's practicing how to throw your bait more accurately, whether it's practicing how to catapult your bait more accurately, whether it's practicing like me today, how to cast more accurately. Also, today is about getting confidence up for me in this new bait. It's not saying it's new bait, it's not a new bait, it's something I'm experimenting with and I'm very happy with it. Hopefully, I've done some filming on how I came to using this bait. And so what I'm hopefully going to be doing is you'll hopefully be seeing that video, maybe as part of this video, or maybe as part skin and egg away with it, or maybe as part of another video. So I'm a bit quiet because I was concentrating. I've still not 100% happy with that cast, but it's a whole lot better than the last cast. And it'll still go round. I think it's already gone round. Looking at that line, look at that. It's just, I mean, I can't believe that was a line. It could have been. could have been because there's a lot of fish between me and the feeder, but it's still going up the feeder. Mine's still not tightening up, still not tightening up, still not tightening up. So if there's not a fish on there, I'll be surprised that there's a fish on, and it's a carp. So that fish has hooked itself and then just swam back towards me, trying to shake that feeder off. And so it hasn't been a rip round of a bite. So we've got lots of factors here now because I'm catching carp again. I've put the pellets on. Have they made a difference? Don't know. Because I'm not sure they made an immediate difference, but now there's a few pellets out there. Has that made a difference? Casting accuracy improved. That's got to have made a difference. I've put the maggots on instead of the wafter. Has that made a difference? Is it just time of day? But the skimmers are not getting to it as quickly as they were before. There's a lively little boyo. There's a little wiry 3-pounder, maybe 4. Skinny boy. Kill a couple of maggots. Double dead red, takes me about 20 years. It's probably working again now because everyone stopped doing it. Not everybody, quite a few people still doing it. In matches I noticed. So my casting is better again than it was last time I went out, but it's still not 100% where I'd like it to be. That one again, absolutely on it line wise. It's sprung back a little bit, that one. I hit the clip a bit hard. But line wise, he's absolutely on it. I hit the clip really hard and that's on. It's on there. Fish on that straight away as it was sinking. Definitely started to come to them pellets now, I think. There's an area out there. So line wise, that was by my eye from where I'm sitting now, exactly where I wanted to put it, that particular cast. It was like a big skimmer, or is it just a carp? It's got its head pointing towards me. It's weird. It's not a skimmer. It's too heavy. But yeah, I'm really happy with that. And that's just working through my process and just getting it back to being sort of habit. And I think the biggest change that I've made today, I've noticed today, is getting a rhythm to my casting. It's a lot of swing it out, swing it back, move, all one motion, not stopping and jerking and thinking about it for a minute. Nice fish this is. Just a ghosty, I think. Not sure. Yeah, there you go. It's got a bit of ghosty in it. Yeah, it's a ghost. A ghosty. Yeah, it's a ghosty. Another good reason to use maggots is look at the size of the mouth on this fish. These fish have been caught so many times that they can't take big baits. So I know the trend at the moment is to use big baits and try to single out carp in matches. Get your 6mm on, get your 8mm on. I'm certainly guilty of it. But it is worth noting when you go to a fishery, it's not a nice thing to talk about. It upsets some anglers. But some fish have been battered. They've got small mouths, and some fisheries seem to have a lot of fish that are like that. Some fisheries seem to have no fish or few fish that are like that. But most fisheries have 1 or 2% of their fish that are like that once they've once they've had anglers on them for an amount of time. Might not have been enough groundbait in that one. So something worth noting to yourself. And think about that, because you don't want to miss out on that. That's gone right. Not much right though. I see I'm complaining about that, and it ain't that bad compared to how it was this morning. I was saying, you want to make note of that, because you don't want to miss out on that 1 or 2% of fish that have got bad mouths, do you? Or that one in might be as many as 5 or 10% in some fisheries. It's a big, massive difference in a match. So maybe, oh, come round again as soon as it's landed. Maybe sometimes you want to. That's just as good a session as I've had on the method feed for a long time. I was thinking I'm never going to get through these skimmers, and suddenly, whether it's the pellets, whether it's the time of day, whether it's my casting, I don't know what it is, probably a combination of all them things. It's amazing how small things make a difference to your catch rate. Time of day is massive on these venues, you know. It's not late though. What are we on? It's just about to turn 5 o'clock, so probably going to. It's a bit smaller, but I'm probably going to give it another half an hour, 40 minutes. Afternoon, fished for a couple of hours and had I've lost count of how many carp I've had. I've lost count of how many skimmers I've had. It's just been a fish every single, well, it's been a bite every single time it's gone in. I've lost a few skimmers, to be fair, and a couple of carp on these smaller hooks, but even now something's already on that feeder. I felt it get a tap then. There's a few liners that, got a few liners from fish in the middle, so I'm a bit reluctant to lift in this. I know it's definitely on. There we are, that's on, and there we are, there's another carp. So that now is 5 carp and 5 casts, and they're all been that fast. Once you start getting that feeder going down the same hole, and get to the right time of day. But the beauty is this is helping me understand that the ground bait's working properly. Which is what I want, which is what I need to know, you know. No point coming to a swim with no fish in it. You've got to come to a swim with some fish in it. Get the fish there, and then if you can hook them, you know that everything's working properly. If you can't, well, you feel like you could catch faster, then you know that there's something wrong. But I'm really happy with it today. I keep saying one more fish. This was going to be my last fish. The last one was going to be my last fish. It just keeps going round. A lovely mirror, this one. I've had lots of comments today, not very many mirrors. This is a nice little fully scaled mirror. They come in a lot easier than mirrors tend to. When they're this size anyway. Lots of fish in the 4 to 6 pound bracket today. There's another one nicely scaled up.